what if everything that I'm doing isn't what I'm supposed to be doing? And I actually put some thought into that, where I'm thinking, okay, let's just say every decision I've made so far is, leading me to a path that I'm not supposed to be on. And I actually put some thought into that, where I thought, okay, if that is true, if that is the reality, what is the worst thing that could actually happen from that? So, if you think back to all the things that you've gone through in your life, some of them obviously are going to be really shitty things, right? Things that you wish you could go back and change. And you think to yourself, if I could just go back and change this, my life would be a lot better, right? Some people have gone through really shitty things. Some people have gone through horrific things. Some people have gone through great things. But no matter what those things were, they changed something in you as a person, whether it be good or bad, right? So maybe before you were a very caring person, right? You cared, above and beyond, right, for others. And then something really tragic happened to you, and now you don't really look at people the way you used to. And now you are more cautious in things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what happened to you was a bad thing. Maybe it forced you to look at yourself inwards more, care more deeply about yourself more than others. Maybe it caused you to be more strategic in your line of thinking on deciding on whether somebody is somebody that's, kind of out to get you, or somebody who's trying to take advantage of you, and you otherwise would have been like taken advantage of. And you think about it now and say, hey, if this didn't happen to me, then I would have completely fell for this. So there's good and bad that comes into things that, that could change you as a person. And I'm thinking about it, and even if all the things that I've, accomplished and I've achieved and gone through, and it looks like it's all for nothing, it's not, because I know deep down that even though I'm scared out of my mind on what's about to happen, I know it's challenging for me as a person, and it's going to help me grow on whatever that is, whether it be a lessons learned where it's like, damn, I should have just stayed put, I never should have moved, and I should have just stayed my ass where I was at. I had everything that I needed. And, sometimes it takes for people to lose everything that they have to realize what they had. And I hope that's not my case. But it's a calling to me right now, where I want to travel. I want to see other places other than the place that I've been my whole life. And I think it's a growing opportunity for me. And no matter how scared you are as a person going through whatever it is that you're going through, I think it's a challenge that it may be needed in order for you to, break free from whatever walls are built up in your head right now. And I think that I've built up, walls in my head where I think that I fit in, inside of this box. And then once that those walls are up in my head, I feel like I got to break free out of them. And it's kind of like you set a goal for yourself and you achieve a certain goal. And then once you achieve that goal, you're like, now what? And I think it's just human nature that, we're never really satisfied on where we're at, because we always want progress. We always want to move forward. We always want to continue to grow. And without growth, we're just, basically going to be repeating ourselves and repeating, the same habits, the same people, the same conflicts. It's just the same thing over and over again. And um, once you start to feel like your everyday is so repeatable and so predictable, life becomes so boring. And you look at your life and you think, I should be happy with everything that I have. Why am I not happy? And it's not to say that I'm unhappy. It's just a matter of, I know there's something else out there for me to do. And it's been gnawing at me for so long. I feel like, when's going to be the time to do it? When I'm in my 60s and 70s, I'm going to look back and say, like, shit, why didn't I do that when I was in my 40s? I'm not going to want to do this stuff when I'm older. So even if, later on when I'm in my 60s and 70s and I say, man, I really messed up when I was in my 40s, at least I could say that. At least I could say, hey, I really messed up. Or I can't believe I did those things. Listen to these stories that I've got, all the stuff that I did. Rather than I wish, or, back in the day, I was gonna. It's kind of like, what's the point? If you're going to move through your life and being cautious for every little thing and not, push yourself to do something a little above and beyond on what your norms are, then literally what's the point? Like if I did everything to the T on what, society, I guess, or whatever upbringing that you were in, right? Let's just say you went and you followed it all the way to the end and you let everyone else dictate, what your life should look like, So you went to school, you climbed the career ladder, you had your family, you got your house, you watch your kids grow up, you retired, and that's it. That was your life. How boring does that sound when you say it like that? It's all the stuff in the middle that counts, right? All the things you did in the middle. What sights did you see? What memories did you build? What stories do you have with your friends, with your family? What sights did you see? What traveling did you do? Like, that's what makes it worth it. Not following this scripted plan. And even if I go off script, which that's what this channel is about, just going off script, right? Doing what I actually want to do. I followed the script for far too long. And it's like, now I'm like, you know what? For what? Why am I following the script for? There's literally no one telling me what to do except me. So it's all in my head right now that's telling me, you got to do this and you got to do that. I ain't got to do nothing. I can literally do nothing if I wanted to. But instead, I have a calling to do something that I actually want to do. So why ignore that? Why not? Why not now? And no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome, I'm going to look back and say, at least I tried. At least I did it. And there may be people that, think like, oh, shit, why did she sell her house? Like, for what? Like, there's people that are asking us now, like me and my husband, like, what's going on? Like, one of my husband's friends thought he was like terminally ill or something. Like, why are we going overseas? Like, for what? And it's like, no, we want to travel. And it's so outside the norm of our inner circle of family and friends. Like, no one's ever done something like this before. This is stuff that you see people do on like TV, like they don't understand how you would be able to move overseas. All the basic questions of how are you going to live? How are you going to earn money? Where are you going to live? What about, visas, like all those questions are popping through their head. And it's like, we've done a whole lot of research on this and we understand the lifestyle that we're going to be living, and we're not going to be living in a box. We're not going to be living in some jungle in the middle of nowhere. We're going to be staying at hotels. We have a system in place that we've been building on, that we are going to, live a good life, and that's the plan. It's not to leave a good life and go live a shitty one. Like, no one wants to do that. So it's just funny how, when you only know one particular, lifestyle, it's hard for you to see others. It's hard for you to comprehend that there's another way of living, because you've only known this life. So it's hard for you to think outside of the box. It's hard for you to think of, what else could there be out there? And I'm going to find out. All right. That's it.